Disclaimer. I'm aware that Sword and Shield have come out and that they've sold really well. Even if they were lying about the speed it sold 6 million, it doesn't really matter because it breached 16 million before 2020. I know this video is objectively incredibly outdated, but I make points in this video that I want people to hear, so I'm gonna put it out anyway. Even though the damage is done, since it's almost sold as much as Sun and Moon, which are right under X and Y in terms of sales. This entire video was made with the purpose of trying to help people understand that the future of this franchise is on the line, but even though it's probably too late to save it now, we can use this series and what happened with this game as a cautionary tale of what happens when companies gain enough power to manipulate people without consequences, and, in turn, what happens when the people allow themselves to be manipulated. And, hey, maybe if I'm lucky, I'll convince some people who still haven't gotten this game not to buy it, and not to trust Game Freak again. Even if it doesn't really matter in the long run, a few small wins would still be nice. This video was written before the game's release, and therefore before the DLC's announcement. Any and all amendments that the DLC is confirmed to make will be addressed in a future video. With all that said, let's begin. Well, I did this last year, and I was hoping I wouldn't have to do it this year, but I guess Game Freak never learns. Here we go again, boys! Hello everyone, this is VGMaster2, back with another fucking Pokemon video because fuck me! If you remember, a little less than a year ago, I made a video advising people not to buy the sack of shit Game Freak made back then. Well, I can't say my video specifically did anything, but the sales for Let's Go were worse than apologists were hoping. And, well, Game Freak is being a bitch again, so here I am, this year, with a similar request. Yes, I am advising people not to buy Sword and Shield, which means yes, I'm giving you advice on how to spend your money. Damn, how dare people warn others that they're making a potentially horrible, wasteful decision. Anyways, it's apparent that I and a whole lot of people aren't the biggest fans of Sword and Shield, or really Game Freak in general. But to understand why, I feel it's appropriate to start at the beginning. Pokemon Sword and Shield were semi-announced all the way back during E3 2017. It was after Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon were announced, and a good portion of the community was pissed. I personally wasn't, and I did enjoy the games, but looking back now, I understand why people felt this way. Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon simply didn't need to exist. Not at that time anyway, maybe later for the inevitable remakes. And with the games not even being true sequels, they suspected there wasn't enough content to warrant their own duo, especially just a year after the originals. And yeah, I may love Ultra Necrozma and Blacephalon, but I can't agree. Well, Game Freak noticed our animosity and apathy and came out with a PR statement that was actually part of the fucking E3 Direct. They basically said, "We know you're angry, but don't worry. We're developing a new generation for the Switch." This boosted everyone's morale and gave them hope for the future. Then later that year, and early the next year, we started getting rumors of a strange new Pokemon game that was everything we didn't want. An unnecessary second remake of Kanto on the Switch that only contained Kanto Pokemon and was focused on Pikachu and Eevee. More and more information was leaked out, culminating in a reveal of the games at the end of May, at least according to the leaks. Well, the end of May was fast approaching, and there was no reveal in sight. We were almost free! Until May 29th, when Game Freak pulled a press conference out of their ass. It was there that they revealed that everything was true. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee were Kanto remakes coming to the Switch that only contained Kanto Pokemon and had almost nothing from the main series games. They were parading it around as a Bridge the Gap game, which is honestly debatable, and a stepping stone towards the future. And people were rightfully pissed. Kanto was getting a dumbed-down, unnecessary remake when there was a new generation to work on. I mean, what was Game Freak thinking? Well, Game Freak was thinking that we'd be just as mad as we actually were, because they also revealed that the new generation, the true main series games, the games for all of our loyal, hardcore fans, will be announced and released in 2019. Again, people were shut up, and they held on to the hope of a better future. That is, until E3 2018, where Game Freak fucked themselves hard. It was already bad enough that they were lying to everyone about Let's Go being main series just to turn a profit, but they revealed that they removed the ability to think for yourself. They removed free will and replaced it with unnecessary obstacles you had to finish in order to proceed. This and all of the other shitty things started a campaign against the game, and rightfully so, if I do say so myself. Let's Go revealed that Game Freak didn't actually care about the people playing their games. They just shat out whatever they wanted in hopes of turning the biggest easily gained profit ever. Did it work? Well, Let's Go sold 3 million in its first 3 days, selling as well as Oras, and admittedly became the fastest selling Switch game ever. For about 2 weeks, since Smash Bros. Murdered it, selling 5 million in its first 3 days. Half a year later, Smash sat at almost 15 million, while Let's Go couldn't even get itself to 11 million, having sold worse than every actual main series game in the last decade, with the exception of Platinum, Black and White 2, and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Yes, even Black and White and Oras sold better. So scroll back a bit to February 2019. Pokemon is celebrating their 23rd anniversary, and every day they're reminding us of all of the regions, yes, even the ones after Kanto. Since most people have more than one brain cell, they realize, hey, the new generation is coming out this year, they haven't announced it yet, and they're showing us all of the other ones right up to the day of the anniversary. Could it be that Game Freak is going to announce Gen 8 on the anniversary? Take a guess. Pokemon Sword and Shield were announced on February 27th, 2019, and the only things we knew were the titles and the starters, so slightly more than Sun and Moon's announcement. We didn't know shit about the rest of the game, but the region looked like England, the titles were weird, and the starters looked cute. Fast forward to June 5th, 2019, a week before E3. Pokemon wanted to steal the spotlight, as was becoming the norm, and decided to have a direct focused on Sword and Shield. In it, we were shown the unnecessary new gimmick, some new Pokemon, and the absolutely gorgeous mascots, Zacian and Zamazenta. The Direct was great, the games looked wonderful, and nothing could go wrong, right? A week passes. It's now E3. There's a Sword and Shield leak floating around that contains some of the information we just learned, but it can't be true. We sit down at our computer screens on June 11th, ready for the Nintendo Direct. We find out that there's gonna be Pokemon info revealed in it, and that the showroom floor is based not on Animal Crossing, but Pokemon. It's weird, but who cares? We watch the Direct. The Dragon Quest hero is coming to Smash, both Luminary and Erdrick. Verjaben was right all along. Animal Crossing New Horizons was finally revealed, and it looked beautiful. It's been delayed to 2020, but that's because Nintendo wants it to be the best it can be. The Direct ends with a double whammy. Banjo and Kazooie have been announced for Smash as well, and Nintendo announced that they're working on a direct sequel for Breath of the Wild. Everyone is hyped as the Direct ends, and shifts to the Treehouse, where the first thing on the list is Pokémon. Pokemon fans watch as most other people turn the stream off, and the streamers give their opinions of the Direct over the footage. As they play, however, a startling detail is given. Megas and Z-moves are being replaced. Well, Z-moves replaced Megas, but Megas were still in the game, so maybe that's what they mean. But then, a few minutes later, they drop a nuke on the entire community. Pokemon Home, the second coming of Pokemon Bank that was announced at their 2019 conference, will only transfer Pokemon to Sword and Shield if they are in the Galar Dex, as all other Pokemon will be absent from the game's code, unlike every other main series game. This was the straw that broke the camel's back. For 2 years, we'd been told that The good games are coming! The good games are coming! Gen 8, the games you've been waiting for forever are coming! And then they say that. The community is furious and a further split is formed between the ever-loyal shills and the critical thinkers. People actually start looking at the game. They realize that the reasons Game Freak gave don't hold up. They're reusing models and animations. They don't have balance. Pokemon don't shine, they're the same as before. There's less content being put out for a higher price tag, and the gimmick is unwanted and unloved. People start to see that the game only looks like a slightly better 3DS game, with some things that look worse than Wii-level graphics. It doesn't look like a Switch game, but it is, and they expect us to pay $60 for it. People rally behind a hashtag in hopes that Game Freak listens to them, just like how other companies listen to their fans. 2 weeks go by. Game Freak has said nothing. Then, Masuda gives an announcement. We pray they've listened and read what actually basically sums up to, "We heard you, except we didn't. We know you're upset, but we don't care. It was a really hard decision for me to make. I mean, it wasn't, but if I say that, people will believe me, 'cause people can't lie, right? This is the new norm. There's not gonna be a patch, even though our dying rival can patch their game. But don't worry, we'll be sure to use your favorite Pokemon as a reason for you to buy the next games." With that, Masuda returns to his Twitter account, ignores the criticism, and only responds to praise. But he did nothing to stop anybody, because he said nothing, so people continued to fight. That's where we are now, with people continuing to fight. And goddamn, it's been hard. Every time Game Freak reveals something, and don't worry, I'll get to the reveal cycle soon, the people against all Pokemon returning, and having more content, and holding Game Freak to the standards of the multi-billion-dollar company they are, rallied together to shit on the people who did want that. And these anti-more and better content people really didn't like admitting that maybe they were wrong. Whenever something disproved their argument, they'd move the goalpost. Take the animations, for example. It starts with, "They shouldn't be cutting Pokemon. They're doing it to make room for better animations and graphics." Well, the animations and graphics don't look that much better. Well, they had to remake all of the models. We have proof that they are using the same models and animations as before. Well, the reused animations look good, and other companies reuse stuff all the time. But that's not an excuse to cut content. Also, if they have all of the better animations, why not use them in the places that count, and not in optional side modes? You can just never win with them. But we've seen it before, with Let's Go, and with some elements in this game. Like you not being able to turn off Experience Share. That Game Freak does not care or respect the player, or their intelligence, or independence. So why are people so loyal? Well, if I may speculate, I think the problem really stems from this. Pokemon fans have an addiction. They play everything Game Freak gives them excessively, and when they release a new game, everyone flocks to it for their own immediate satisfaction. This isn't healthy. This behavior only makes pre-existing problems worse, as it shows companies that fans want more of what they're dishing out, which isn't necessarily true. Pokemon fans put the series' future in jeopardy because their addiction urges them to get their fix of immediate satisfaction instead of thinking about the consequences it could have in the future. They also don't realize that they don't have to buy something just because they like it. To use a personal anecdote, I like Undertale and Five Nights at Freddy's. Despite this, I've only played them a handful of times on copies that I didn't own. I have not bought one installment from either of these franchises, even though I love them. You may like the Pokemon in Sword and Shield, or the story, even though before leaks we didn't even know anything about them. But that doesn't mean you have to buy it day one, or even buy it at all. It's the same concept as liking or not liking something without playing or watching it. A trailer's job is to show you info that makes you decide whether or not to buy it. If you like what you see, then you like it before you play it. It's the same with not liking it. There's nothing wrong with either, but people on the internet tend to think liking something before release is okay, while not liking it before release is not. Basically, classic internet hypocrisy. But that's enough background, and that's enough about the fans. Let's talk about the problems that make me believe people should be skipping this game. Obviously, one of them is that not all Pokemon are going to be in the code. And yes, that is different than all of them being catchable in the region. You see, in every game, there are Pokemon you can't catch in the game-specific region. Say, you can't catch Bulbasaur in Unova. Well, in the post-game of every single game, you had access to a transfer feature that allowed you to bring your older Pokemon up into the newest game. The only exception to this was between Gens 2 and 3 because of the incompatible engines. But all the games in Gen 3 had every single Pokemon in the code. If you had Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, Fire Red, and Leaf Green, you could catch as many Pokemon as you could and then trade them all into one file. This became easier and easier in future generations with the introduction of Wi-Fi and trading over the internet. But the constant was every Pokemon was in the code, and every past Pokemon was somehow obtainable in every new game, even if that method was transferring. Sword and Shield changes that. Not all Pokemon are in the code, meaning that even after the transferring software comes out, you won't be able to bring all of your old Pokemon up anymore, and that software is a problem in and of itself. Pokemon Home is only usable with Nintendo Online, which is $20 a year. Chances are, just like Bank, you'll need to pay an additional subscription fee to use it. Bank is around $5, meaning that if Home is the same, you're paying $25 a year. This would be fine if all of the Pokemon were transferable, but they're not. Meaning that if you bring all your Pokemon from Bank to Home, all the untransferable Pokemon are trapped in Home, and you have to keep paying for the service until the day they're finally in a game again, which could be years. To delve back into the fans for a quick moment, that's why the National Dex is such a big deal. It's not because everyone suddenly wants all of the Pokemon for themselves. It's because people are losing the option to continue their journey with their Pokemon. While I don't transfer Pokemon, I know there are thousands of people who do. I may not play the old games and save them much, so I know my own are fine, but the batteries of the cartridges are finite. People are losing the option to save what's precious to them, and when there is so much more potential with the Switch, we should be gaining options, not losing them. In my previous video, I covered the Game Informer interview with Game Freak. In it, Masuda himself said that he does those shitty current legendary events because they make memories that can be projected onto the Pokemon. We know that's a lie. If they cared, they would be like level 5. Listening to the fans and patching them in. Even if they were waiting for Home to release, they should still announce a patch. Instead, when we ask them to listen, they turn their backs on us. It's an incredibly ballsy move, but a pretty bad one. Just this year, there have been 3 instances of consumers realizing they've been wronged, calling out to a company, and the company listening. When the Sonic movie trailer came out, people hated the design and wanted a change. What did Paramount do? Change it. What happened? We lost a meme, but people were happy. And when the next trailer came out, it actually looked really good. When Mario Maker 2 was revealed to not have online multiplayer with friends, people said, that's bullshit. This game is about creating and sharing. We should be able to share with our friends, and called for a change. What did Nintendo do? Change it. What happened? The fans were happy. When YouTube, yes, this very site, said they were unnecessarily changing how verifications worked, its users band together and demanded them to stop. What did YouTube do? They went back on their decision. What happened? The creators were happy. There's a fine line between creator and consumer. If the consumer is failed, the series or even the company itself will fail. Just look at Star Wars, Game of Thrones, and Doctor Who. These were series that lasted years and used to be amazing, but recently the creators have been going against and sometimes outright shitting on the fans. What's happening now? These series are dying. Maybe slowly, but they are, and if the creators continue what they're doing, it'll be much faster. I know this is more than a quick moment, but one more thing. Earlier this year, there was an indie game named Dark. The creator put the trailer up on Steam and it got wildly popular. The Epic Games Store caught wind of this and tried to convince the creator to switch the game from Steam to an Epic Store exclusive. When asked if he could put it on both, he was denied. What did he choose? To keep it on Steam. Why? Because he knew that people trusted him to keep his word, and he wanted to honor his word. Because he knew that the way to build up trust in consumers was to keep an honest relationship with them. What happened? The game sold great. Everyone was happy with the decision, and the creator was so grateful he added some DLC for free. Game Freak is not like this. When Game Freak decided not to listen, they destroyed the remainder of the already dwindling trust of a lot of their fans, potentially irreparably. Now, one may not think the Dex is a big deal. To spoil Sword and Shield, the game adds around 80 Pokemon, bringing the total to almost 900. And in total, there are 400 Pokemon in the game. This means that over half of all Pokemon are cut from the code for who knows how long. It's around 500 Pokemon being left behind, which includes all non-Gen 8 legendaries, all non-Gen 8 starters except Charizard, and hundreds more still. And as a quick side note, we wouldn't even know this if it hadn't been for leaks, since Game Freak had no interest in being honest. That is less total Pokemon in the code than Gen 4, which ended almost a decade ago. Those species translates to thousands of people's individual Pokemon, including every single starter they've ever had that's not Charizard, that are being unceremoniously, unnecessarily left behind. That's thousands of Pokemon that could be held prisoner in home if their owners decide to carry all of them up. That's thousands of precious memories being locked away for years. This is also something they want to continue forever. So come Gen 9, half of the Pokemon introduced in Sword and Shield could be cut. This could potentially be forgivable if there was anything else in the game, but there's not. This game is 10.3 gigabytes, double that of every other game. What does it go towards? We know that Game Freak is incredibly incompetent with their codes, and I'm not seeing much here that's new and big and impactful, so what is it? As stated before, the graphics are questionable, as are the animations. There's no balance as usual. Cooking doesn't add anything, jobs don't add anything, camp is just reskinned slightly more in-depth Ami and Refresh. There's more Kanto pandering, much worse than in Gen 7. The only thing left is maxing, but even still, it's not enough. It's just Megas, but worse, plus Z moves, and it doesn't make sense in the lore. It's essentially a Japanese concept that's being shoved half-assedly into England. And Mega's removal doesn't make sense either, seeing as France and England are practically neighbors. Unless there's some unknown law keeping these things in their countries, both regions should theoretically have slivers of both. But that last part is irrelevant, and I digress. I want to make a quick tangent before I start wrapping everything up, because I said I was going to be talking about Sword and Shield's reveal cycle. Reveal cycles in general are important. They're supposed to be the things that make us want what these companies are putting out. But Game Freak has been having some really weird ones. The fact that they kept tens of Pokemon from us is very telling. They wanted us to be surprised, yes, but in desiring that, they almost made us believe that there was a lot less this game had to offer. Game Freak didn't show us enough. Now, you may bring up how people complained in the past about them revealing too much, and that's true, but that's because Game Freak doesn't seem to realize that it's a mix of reveals and mysteries. Tyranitar Tube made a video all about this, and I agree. The best hype cycles were those with a good chunk of reveals that came after mysteries. With Sun and Moon, they showed off too much without letting mysteries and speculation shine. However, with Sword and Shield, They drip-fed us information with almost no mysteries at all. The best reveal was Sirfetch'd. Even though we knew he existed already thanks to that leak I mentioned earlier, they made it a multiple-day mystery, a glitch on the site with garbled info. Everything except him and Galar and Ponyta was revealed in weirdly timed trailers. Even still, Galar and Ponyta's reveal was shit. I've said it before in another video. A 24-hour live stream for only her and official semi-acknowledgement of Impidimp. That's unacceptable. Maybe Game Freak was trying to hide things because they were scared, and I'd say rightfully so. But it is inherently dishonest to hide things from us. There's surprise, and then there's lying by omission. X and Y had an amazing hype cycle. It was full of mysteries and speculation. But somewhere in the last 6 years, Game Freak just kind of forgot how to do things correctly. Now, getting back on track. Game Freak said they want to take what they have and make it better, and allow people to play the way they want. But we know this simply isn't true. Megas and Z-moves have been taken out. Two major features that fans liked, and in the case of Megas, loved. Thrown away after just last year, they used Megas as a selling point for Let's Go. The experience share is no longer an item, it's baked in. Game Freak says they want us to play how we want. They let us turn autosave off, but they can't give us the option of not having auto EXP on? It's basically writing on the wall that maxing is next to go in 3 years. And things are so bad that they've already started cutting Pokemon from the code with only their word that they aren't gone forever. What else are we going to let this company do? How many features and how many Pokemon are we willing to let go before we finally fucking do something about it? Well, I believe the time to start standing up to them already began. We just need more people to stand up with us. That's why, for the second year in a row, I'm asking that if you truly care about Pokemon's future, if you don't want it to die like all those other series, do not buy these games. Let Game Freak know that what they are doing is not okay and that we aren't taking their bullshit anymore. At this point, it may be the only way to save this franchise. If you want to hear more Pokemon bullshit straight from Game Freak's mouth, my last video was on the Game Informer interview. I read the entire thing while ripping them to shreds, so if you're interested, check it out. If you're watching this video and have no idea what's going on, I have a playlist of videos that talk about everything that happened. Link will be in the description. Also, don't listen to reviews of Sword and Shield. They're just gonna do what they did last year with Game Freak's last pile of slop. They're gonna tell you, it's amazing! And then a few months later, the same people are gonna go, wow, there were a lot of problems with that game. It really wasn't so good. Because guess what, motherfuckers? People get paid off to give good press to video games. If you want to know what it's like, watch a playthrough of it and judge it for yourself. Remember everyone, when video game companies start fucking up, it's up to us, the ones keeping them in business in the first place, to stand up to them. With that said, I'm VG Master 2, and I hope to see you next time.